We need to have a chat about Truett. What is he built of?
He's a machine right now. It's weird because I get credit for my kids, and they're like, "Oh, you must have done such a good job." I didn't. I mean, I pushed those boys way too hard. I mean, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was young. I was in my 20s. So I didn't know how to be a dad. My dad was never around. I hated my stepdad, so I knew I definitely didn't want to be like him, but I didn't know what a dad was supposed to be. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm just going to prepare these kids. I know how life is. I know life will fucking kick you in the nuts. So they're going to be ready for anything. Life is competition. They're going to be ready to compete. So I pushed them really hard, and it was not great all the time.
Because, how so? What did you do?
It was just always a battle. It's just like, we're running every day. You guys got home from school. Okay, get your stuff on. We're going to go do Pisgah. No kid wants to go run a mountain. And I'm like, no, this is, because the way I thought of it was, I had a terrible childhood, but it made me tough. So I'm like, you guys have everything. You have everything I ever wanted. Your dad's around. Your mom is here. She loves you. You have every shoe you want, every basketball camp you want to go to, you go to. I said, so the way this is going, you're going to grow up to be a couple big pussies. We're going to make you tough. So I would just make them do hard things. They both did half marathons when they were 7 and 8 years old. Truett just put up a picture. He looks like he's this tall. He was tiny at 8 years old, but he ran a 154 half, like this tall, which is 8-something minute miles. And all that to say that, yeah, I had the kids do really hard things for many years to prepare them for what I said was life's challenges. And it made it, it reminded me, did you ever see the movie Tree of Life?
No.
So Brad Pitt's in it, and great movie, but he was super hard dad there. When he would leave, it was like fucking playtime, right? Mom, kids, jumping on the beds, and then when dad would come home and be like, oh God. So I said, this reminds me of me when we go out of town, it's just playtime, come back, it's like, oh shit. So that's not great when you're the bad guy all the time. Dads are usually the disciplinarian, that's whatever. But I was also like, making them do these really hard things. So they see now and they see all the success, but it wasn't great. And anybody from the outside in would look and say, what's wrong with that? That dad is pushing those kids too hard. It's like any basketball game. I'm just like, a loose ball, you better be on that floor. And I said, I want to see floor burns on your knees. I want you diving on. I want you playing the harder than any kid out there. So that's a hard thing to live up to. Kids just want to have fun. They want to play. They're not looking to compete every day, but I made them compete. So it was a challenge. Now you see what that results in, and Tanner, he was a Ranger. He's freaking badass. It's probably tougher than Truett. And then Truett's, doing these crazy things and getting all this attention. And yeah, I mean, it's great. I'm glad to see it, but I wasn't perfect raising them.
Do you regret it?
Yeah, I regret. I remember when Tanner went to the Army, he was a deputy back home, very proud of him. Such an important job. He, a corrections officer, just worked at the jail, but still it's, a good job. It's like paid the bills. I was proud of him. We need men to do that. So, he said he was going to join the Army and he wanted to be a Ranger. And I'm just like, you get deployed. And I'm thinking, what if, I think it was because I would tell them that average is failing. If you look around, you see the average person, that's not us. That's not what we want to be. So we're not, yes, I know people need to work at gas stations and do things, whatever, that's fine. But that's not what we're settled for. So he said he wanted to quit. He didn't want to be a deputy anymore. He wanted to be a ranger because he had more to offer this world. And I was thinking, was that me who fucked up and said this, at being, just having a regular job was somehow failing? And I just had so many regrets. And I was just like, I told him he's getting ready to go to basic training. And I'm like, I said, Tanner, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with having a regular job, being a family man. And I said, there's nothing, I was wrong. I was wrong to say what I said, raising you kids. And, cause I was thinking about, what if he got deployed and was killed? And it's just like, because of shit I said, trying to make my boys tough, and this is a result. So yeah, I was like, yeah, I definitely have had regrets over how hard I pushed them.
I think it's such a delicate balance to give your kids the life that you never had and the life that you worked so hard to be able to afford them with, whilst also knowing where most of the important realizations that made you into the sort of person who could provide came about due to restriction and difficulty and tough times and toil, and a little bit of, maybe a bit of resentment and a little bit of unfairness in childhood that galvanized you to sort of do something great with your life. Look, dude, every single parent that I know, and even more, tell you what, be fucking grateful that you had your kids in your 20s, because if you'd had them now, imagine how much of a differential your lifestyle is, materially, in terms of resources, in terms of status and notoriety and opportunity and all of this stuff. You would be like floating out in space. You know, you would have no idea. The total frame of reference would be out of the window. There's not a single dad that I know who has sort of crawled out from the place that they were as a kid and made something of themselves who doesn't have that exact concern about their children. I think it is one of the most common worries. Ben Francis, he's the guy that founded Gymshark. Gymshark's completely bootstrapped. He still owns 70% of it. Gymshark's worth over, it's nearly $3 billion, £3 billion company. This guy's like worth like £2 billion, like $3 billion, and he's 31. He's got twin boys, but he grew up like as rough as they come in Birmingham, with a granddad that made him go and work in like a clay mine or so, like a pottery barn or something like that. And I've asked him this question. I'm like, how do you intend on navigating this one? How do you intend on teaching your kids the lessons that you learned from a very working class grandfather, their great grandfather, whilst also not throwing away the entire reason for working as hard as you did, which was to be able to afford your fucking family the life that you never had.
Right.
So, you know, first off, I think you did the best that you could, so you need to give yourself some grace with that. And look, if 50% was like the middle of the bell curve of how much toughness versus easiness you could give kids, I would guess that most kids and most parents are too far on the easy side. I think snowplow parenting, helicopter parenting, gentle parenting, whilst noble in its intentions, is usually kind of over pattern matched and results in soft entitled adults,
right?
Narcissistic soft entitled adults when they grow up. Given the choice between the two, sort of being pushed a little bit further on the other side, is a very strange kind of gift. I think what would be interesting would be to know how much of that is actually because of the way that you raised them and how much of that is just your genes. The more that I learn about behavioral genetics, heritability of different traits, so on and so forth, like this should be comforting. As far as I can see, there is no such thing as really getting parenting right. There is only getting it wrong. And getting it wrong, kids are pretty fucking resilient.
Mhm.
Like they're really, really tough. And you see perfectly balanced adults that grew up in horrendous childhood environments.
Mhm.
And I think as long as there's no really extreme, well, maybe you would say some of the climbs with the rock were slightly extreme. My point is, I get the sense that if they're made out of the same stuff that you're made out of, they didn't really have a choice whether you made them go up the mountain or not. I think that there is a lot more built into you. You know, you're talking about consistently running for 4 decades
Mhm.
and thinking about framing that up against what that meant in your childhood, and you know, this sort of relentlessness that you approach, like even the pod. When you started that, I think it was episode 3, 2, 3, 4, something like that.
Mhm.
It's now like what, 160,
Mhm.
some shit. Like even with that, that's a level of work rate that most people don't hold up. It's just a minor little
Yeah.
area, then in the hunting, and then in the lifting, and then in the bow stuff, and then in the running, and then in the, so, you know, maybe it's contributed, but what I would, if I could sort of bet a couple of chips on the roulette wheel of a couple of other universes in which you'd approached your kids differently,
Mhm.
I think they'd be probably 90%, 80 or 90% of the way there, just with less experience about how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And one of the best things you can do for your kids, I think, as a fucking, look at me spouting nonsense as a non-father. The internet loves when I do this. One of the best things that you can do is set a good example.
Mhm.
You know, you can read all of the books about healthy attachment and child education and socialization and all the rest of it, but they will learn more from the way that you and your wife show up for each other around the dinner table than every lesson that you try and force into them.
Mhm.
Like you can top down try and tell them how they're supposed to behave. This is how you're supposed to treat girls. You don't hit girls, and you don't do this, and you must hold the door, and you got to be this way, and be blah, 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 blah. It's like, all right, but then when you're around the dinner table, you're a prick.
Mhm.
You look at your phone instead of looking at your wife.
Yeah.
Or you ignore her, or you don't laugh at her jokes, or you guys don't relate well, or they never see you be physically affectionate to each other, or whatever it is. It's not for me to say that you need to like force a relationship, but
Yeah.
the point is, I think that kids learn by seeing a lot more than they get learned by being told. And
Yeah.
that's what you're doing. Even if you hadn't made them go up the mountain and you were like, I'm off to go up the mountain, they'd be like, well, Dad's going up the mountain. Like, can I come up the mountain? You know, so.
Yeah, it's and I was thinking also too, it's not just like what you do, but when you have that mindset about life is competition, hard work is the key, whatever. That is impacting how you talk and how you carry yourself, because everybody says the right thing. They tell their kids what you're supposed to tell your kids. It's like, as you said, no, you hold the door for women. You know, be respectful. Everybody says the right stuff, but how you carry yourself, and then how you talk, not when you're delivering some ultimatum or some direction, but just what's your mindset? And that's when it's not controlled, when you're not thinking about it. So my mindset was always, let's do more, perform more, push harder. So I guess to your point that even if I wasn't, they were seeing that.
Of course.
It's, yeah, it's, you talked about Truett, originally, but even for him, your story sort of reminded me of his. Like, people see him now and they're like, I mean, he gets hate too, because he's easy to hate, definitely. He's got a lot going for him, and that will build some resentment over with some guys. But for him, he lost for years. He didn't miss a day lifting weights for like 14 years. Still hasn't. I started them lifting when they were 14, both him and Tanner. And since that time, he hasn't missed more than a day. So it was loss after loss after loss. He's like tiny, not getting big. He mentioned this. We're doing this video on his pull-ups that, he broke the world record. And he's just like, he goes, I didn't realize that Tanner was kicking my ass every day as his older brother. Anytime we'd compete, me against him, I would never let the kids win. It was always like, it was always a battle. Always crying. I mean, kicking the basketball down the street because they're so mad. Go get it.
Yep.
Tanner, I was throwing like football as hard as I could, making him catch it because he's a receiver. Drops it, punches the ground, breaks his hand. So there's like all these losses, essentially. So Truett said, I didn't know that, I was getting beat by my older brother. I was getting beat by you every day. He goes, I didn't realize Tanner was the biggest beast, one of the biggest beasts he's ever met. And he goes, and I didn't know you were who you were. He said, I just thought I was weak and a loser. Yeah. I didn't know that I was going against these people that were making me. So people see him now, and I'm like, if you could see him back when 14 years old, and when he's in high school, he was 5 foot, like 90 pounds, got cut from the basketball team, even though he was really good and most skilled because he was too small. They don't see all that. Mm-hmm. They see now, and they're just like, oh, what is he on steroids? And it's just like, no, this is a kid who hasn't missed a day in the gym for 14 years and trains for hours every day and doesn't drink, doesn't do anything but get enough rest to perform every single day. This is what you get when you're that dedicated. But people, they want to ignore that part.
You are probably not eating enough fruit and vegetables, and you know it, and this is going to help. Good news for those of you thinking about using AG1 or those already using it. They've just released their next gen formula, which is a more advanced, clinically backed version of the product that I've been drinking every single day for years. The same 1-scoop ritual, now with an even more comprehensive formulation and 4 clinical trials behind it. AG1 Next Gen has been shown to help fill common nutrient gaps and support gut health, even in people who already eat well. In one study, it boosted healthy bacteria in the gut by 10 times. They've added more bioavailable nutrients, enhanced probiotics, and invested in real science, which is very rare in the supplement world. AG1 Next Gen is also NSF certified for sport, which means it's tested for over 280 banned substances and trusted by elite performers who can't afford to guess. Clinically backed with an advanced formula, this is the perfect time to try AG1's Next Gen if you haven't already. Plus, if you're still unsure, they've got a 90-day money-back guarantee, so you can buy it and try it every single day for 3 months. If you don't like it, they will give your money back for the entire lot. And right now, you can get a year's free supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs, plus that 90-day money-back guarantee by going to the link in the description below or heading to drinkag1.com/modernwisdom. That's drinkag1.com/modernwisdom. Thank you very much for tuning in. Enjoyed that clip. The full episode is available right here.